So this is probably one of the most damning footages we've seen that's come out about the UAPs, and we're gonna get into it right now. We have the great Ross Coulthart showing exclusive footage of one of these UAP crash retrieval programs that has captured, quote unquote, an alien, or sorry, non-human intelligence spaceship. And there it is, dropping it off, presumably in the desert. So, according to Ross Coulthart, this is around 150 feet below the helicopter which is carrying it.
From a 150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet
And
long.
I want you to pay attention to what he just said. He said it's around 20 feet long. Do you know how big this thing actually is?
As they bring their precious cargo into land.
What 20 feet is, and he pauses on this part because it's probably the clearest that this footage is going to be. And you know, it's rare that Jimbo does a double upload, okay? But this is one of those things that's a little more prescient than the regular coverage. I hope you guys are enjoying the UFO coverage, by the way. It's been very entertaining for me and informative. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So, what he said was this was around 20 feet, this whole thing, in length. And you want to know, conveniently, just to give you guys a perspective of how big this thing actually is, because maybe it's hard to understand the exact size of this, but I want you to just imagine essentially like a shipping container, a regular shipping container. They're around 21, conveniently, they're around 21 feet in length. Your average shipping container, it's around that long. So if you need to picture how big this is in the sky, your sort of shipping container range, your transport truck, you know, where they have all the cargo, the trailer. I can't believe I didn't think of that friggin' word until then. That's around the same sort of length that we're talking about here, which means this is fairly substantial in size of how big it actually is. I think it's kind of hard to understand if you're not quite picturing it in your head how big this is. So if we can just do some basic math on what a shipping container would look like, just essentially a rectangle here. I'm just going to do a little outline with the mouse. See that? You see that action? Right. At 20, which would be 21 feet, 21 foot long, standard shipping container, okay? It's easy to kind of estimate the size of this, and would probably be about, 2 shipping containers? If we're measuring in shipping containers, how scientific, right? In width. So you just take 2 shipping containers, put them side by side, and you essentially would have the basics of this craft. Now, you wouldn't have the sort of depth dimension, right? Just doing this basic measurement. We don't know how deep it is. We could probably guess, okay? Because there is this strap around it is certainly distorted. It's not flat, so you can assume it's a little deeper than that. I don't know. It could be like 4 or 5 shipping containers all bunched together, possibly, maybe even more or less, but I'm just trying to give you guys an estimation of, or rather a real world visualization of how big this thing would be that you'd be seen carried in the skies. Because I think when someone says 20 feet, you kind of have an idea in your head, but maybe you don't necessarily in real world, because what the hell is 20 feet? What the hell? Well, you know, I'm trying to give you guys everyday objects that you understand and have tangible experience with. You've seen them on the roads. Okay, you've seen them on trains. That's how big this thing is in compared to that. Because it's hard to tell exactly because you don't know how far down. You know how far down it is, and now it makes sense when you see that that's 150 feet down. It's going to be absolutely massive. That's being carried through the sky.
No visible means of propulsion or way to see.
What I find very interesting is, and I'm going to talk about this too. Actually, I'll get into it later. But just anecdotally, right? This isn't even related to it. So it's fairly normal, I'd assume, to have cameras in your helicopter aimed down, especially if you're doing cargo work. My brother's friend is a construction crane operator, big time, right? Well, I don't know why I said big time, but so he's worked on cranes and stuff, and you're carrying cargo that high, so they all have cameras now on it, so you can actually see and have a better look of where you're targeting and how you're lifting the load, because it's actually a safety issue. So it's always common for this, and I imagine with something like this, with a helicopter, you'd need to have a camera view to see exactly where you're picking up and dropping off the cargo, because it can actually be a massive safety issue. Not only that, okay, helicopters themselves, and this really never gets discussed, since you have so much static electricity coming from the helicopter itself, it's typical that these lines, if they should touch the ground or have a ground on them or of some sort, because it was a thing where you could actually get a static charge from a helicopter if you touch the line. If you happen to grab the line, say if you were a person, it would be a significant static charge. It could be even enough to cause cardiac arrest. That's how strong of a static charge from these that can be brought down on a line. So it makes sense, especially in the modern era, that you'd have cameras looking down. So this all makes sense to me. Just trying to explain if some people are like, oh, well, why would you put a camera there? Well, those are reasons why. It makes total sense. It's all safety issues. Makes things a lot easier. Now, this is interesting because what Ross says later on, and this is only, I hope you guys watch the whole interview because there's a lot more into it, but he says that this looks like essentially the Tic Tac UFO. Yeah, that's right. Remember the Tic Tac UFO? How could you, if you know what it is? He said this looks very much like that Tic Tac UFO. Essentially, another version of it. Now, what alien sort of species is behind the Tic Tac UFO? I have no idea. I'd like to know in the comment section. I'm totally blown away that this is even being released. I think it's pretty awesome, to be honest. What do you guys think? I mean, it's pretty crazy footage to think about. And if people were like, well, maybe it's not real. There's no building something like this would be just insane. Just the scale of it would be ridiculous. Of building this giant egg-shaped thing, if you were trying to create disinformation, that would be really weird to do, I guess, if you're trying to build a 20-foot egg and have it just roll away. What other interesting implications from this were that these UAPs could be summoned, apparently. He was talking with the helicopter pilot who provided the footage, and apparently these UAP egg egg edition, we'll call it that, right, could be summoned by ESP telepathic, they call it psionic operators. That lends more credence to this whole Project Stargate, and Ross Coulthart mentions that in the video. But what's weird is that whole can of worms has been very, very strange. And if you look into the Project Stargate sort of aspect of ufology, it's people who could remote view. And I mean, there's a lot of skepticism about that. Usually, quite frankly, the remote viewers were usually, for the most part, correct in what they were seeing. Like if they were doing just base testing, right, to see what their level was, they were pretty much on the nose, and they were hired by the government in various aspects. There is crazy stuff about that. People finding, well, some of the remote viewers were finding, like, when you get into that whole mystery, that is just insanity. I don't even know how to get into that more. it sort of goes beyond our comprehension of, I don't want to say our comprehension, but our basic understanding of things. You have people remote viewing. Okay, I'll give one. I'll give an example, okay? I'll give a just example off the top of my head. The dude remote viewed. I laugh. I shouldn't laugh. Okay, he remote viewed into this. We'll call it an Alaska Dark Pyramid. You should watch a few episodes of any UFO show on the Dark Pyramid in Alaska. It's a very interesting topic. I forget what else, and he remote viewed. I believe it was just that, but it might have been somewhere else. And he said that he saw alien entities there, and that they suddenly, this might have been a different dude. It's very easy to get these stories conflated because they all have a similar theme, right? That sometimes they were told not to go look at certain things. Sometimes they were just given coordinates. Sometimes they were just given base coordinates, and a lot of this was for Cold War era spying, essentially. And so I'm rambling on. The one guy did the Alaska Dark Pyramid thing, and I guess the whole story was, and this is just off the top of my head, I have to refresh myself on the whole facts of this, was that he was supposed to go into Russia to look for something, right? But then got called into this sketchy area of Alaska. Now, it's so sketchy. There's so much stuff going on. There's a whole area there that at the time, and maybe even to current day, isn't mapped out. It isn't mapped out on base maps or anything because, well, I guess satellite imagery might be a thing, because it's impassable terrain, essentially, near one of the mountains, near Mount Denali, was it? I think so. And he found that there was this pyramid underground. Okay, whoa, and it's not necessarily man-made, and the alien extraterrestrial beings know about it and are working in conjunction with the government at a base under the ground. Now, that sounds pretty far-fetched, but guess what? That guy died 3 days later, mysteriously, and he was one of their top assets, right? Allegedly the best one. Now, I might have got this confused with another story where he goes down to a base, right, and sees the alien non-human intelligence. And what's creepy, and this is another story. It might be another story. They all have the similar theme, okay, of these people accidentally doing this. And usually the theme was that the alien non-human intelligence, right, is working and then suddenly becomes aware. It would be like, I don't even know how to describe it. It'd be like, okay, you're in ghost. Imagine you're in ghost form, right? You're invisible. You're Harry Potter with that cloak of invisibility. And all of a sudden, you're walking through the castle. You see a literal alien, and it's just going about its duties. And then all of a sudden, it just turns and looks at you and stares, and then all of them who are there, all of them just start staring at you because guess what? The invisibility cloak ain't working for you. And so that's what the remote viewers were feeling. And then they all ended up, well, this guy ended up under mysterious circumstances dying a few days later after he quit. So there's that. And they were told not to go to certain places. Oh, and the whole dark pyramid thing, there's other corroborating stories about this thing. And the mystery goes even deeper and more recent, because this was all, I believe it was in the 80s, this was all going down. But even as far as 2020, there was a Redditor who went looking out there and was posting all his findings. That guy was never heard from again. Okay. That guy went out into the wilderness. He's like, yeah, I'm packed up for at least a 6-month trek to go find this. I'm a skilled mountaineer, range expert, wilderness dude. All of a sudden, you just disappeared. So there's that whole aspect of it. And that only, why I bring this up is that was all related to the Project Stargate stuff. And then that sort of crops up when the helicopter pilot here is mentioning that psionics in these special access programs were able to pull and call out to these egg UFOs and get them to actually respond. There's further footage in the interview. You gotta watch it. It's totally crazy where they maybe do a demonstration of this, okay, and then another alien race sort of intervenes. And it's all caught on video, folks. It is all caught on video. It's damning video evidence. But another implication from this is that if you've been into the UFO space and the ufology sphere, I guess, the genre we'll call it, what does this mean? This means Dr. Stephen Greer was right. Whoa, big claims there. Dr. Stephen Greer is probably the most foremost expert on UFOs right now. One of them, okay? Probably one of the. If you look up the top 3 people in UFOs, who would you say? Him, Lou Elizondo, and then there you could put Bob Lazar up there too, as like the big sort of names in that whole UFO space, right? As whistleblowers. Now, a lot of people aren't quite sure about Dr. Stephen Greer because sometimes some of his stuff is goes into that sort of psychic stuff, and I laughed. I laughed because some of it does sound a bit crazy, right? The psychic stuff, it's a little bit harder pill to swallow, but if we're talking about extraterrestrial beings, even interdimensional beings, why is psychic stuff such a easy thing to laugh off? I think it's easy to laugh off because our understanding of the world doesn't necessarily revolve around the ability to use psychic abilities for most people, but and now I'm discrediting my laughing at it, but it seems a little kooky, I guess, right? But it makes sense. It makes total sense, especially when there's a bunch of unexplained phenomena that seems to, that we have no idea of how to go about looking at. I think we only understand a fraction of our actual existence, so to speak, and most people significantly less than that. But what this does is this means Dr. Stephen Greer was right, because Dr. Stephen Greer said, and it was only a few weeks ago he said this, he said, you guys want to pay attention, okay, he said, and I'm just, I'm not quoting him verbatim, but he essentially said that we would get some major information getting dropped right before inauguration, the inauguration of President Donald John Trump. And lo and behold, you had a major whistleblower come out 2 days ago. And who is this guy? The pilot of this helicopter. And this footage, this is the most incredible new footage of a UFO that we've ever seen, has come out just days before. Not even, we might even be down to hours. It's January 20th, and today is the 19th. This is insane. So Dr. Stephen Greer was telling people this. He was telling people this last month, 3 to 4 weeks ago, maybe even 6 weeks ago. He was saying, yeah, you just want it early 2025, January. And you know what? Like clockwork, this has come out. He said right before the inauguration. You couldn't, you could not be making these claims if you weren't right. Like, he could make 1,000 claims and be totally off the mark. He was 100% right on this. So that leads more credence in my mind to him being, and his assertions about UFOs being more correct than necessarily other people would have you believe, because some people don't buy into the whole psychic stuff. Well, you have a helicopter pilot who essentially confirmed that, went through profound experiences with that in this interview, okay? And even physiological problems caused by that. It's a great interview. And there's doctors who corroborate what the helicopter pilot experienced. They're like, yeah, this guy had significant problems, health issues that sprung up out of nowhere, and there's no real cause for, and they're not viral issues that he got from someone or caught from being outside or exposed to. Well, it's not exposed to something. He was exposed to something, all right, but it wasn't conventional exposure, right? And now this proving Dr. Stephen Greer right is very, very interesting, because I would look at, if you were on the fence, if you had skeptic, I wanted to call it skeptability in you, this, for me, leads more credence to the other claims he's made. And you want to dig deeper into the psychic stuff of ufology, that could be very interesting. Now, he has his own drama. He has his own beef with one of the other top players in this UFO space. So it's very interesting to see him actually coming out, well, him making the claim of this, saying that this is all happening, and this evidence coming out exactly when he said it would happen, and following sort of the pathway of what he says in his general UFO thesis about how these extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional beings, what they are and how they operate. I thought this was very enlightening. I thought this was some of the best footage we've seen, and this is actually huge. This should be, when we're talking about these drones being a mainstream media story, this should be blowing up everywhere. This should be like, whoa, okay, this should be as big as the Tic Tac. And I hope the mainstream media, we know they're not going to cover it, okay? We know what the big story is coming out in the next few days. Well, we know the good part of it, and hopefully the only part of it. But this is absolutely massive. This should be top story number one this weekend, and I hope they do cover it, and I hope more people tune into this, because this was totally crazy to see.
Egg-shaped UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line.
And at 150
We're
feet,
told the craft is about 20
and
feet long.
this is 20 feet long,
Suspended
and
in a
150 feet down below, you can bet your bottom dollar this thing is absolutely massive. I gave you guys, and hopefully if you watch this gave you some perspective on how big this thing actually is. And he said there were no means of propulsion. You don't see engines on it or any markings of any kind for giving any information on how these things work. So we're all thinking, that gravity drive, that sort of 0-point energy, is how these things make their way around the world. Which again, so far all roads have been leading back to Dr. Stephen Greer and what he's been saying. And if you guys have found this enjoyable, informative, I'd ask for you guys to leave a like and let me know in the comments section what you think about this egg-shaped UFO. We've seen varying UFOs over the past few days. This is some national news. Dude, right at the end, and I'm going to leave this in. I was going to say this is some national news footage, and I almost said this is national news cookie. Man. Yeah, JJ needs his coffee right away. This is national news footage. Absolutely amazing. We're going to be seeing this play out for years. This is some of the best footage that's ever been recorded, in my opinion, of a non-flying UFO. Now, we've seen people use AI to create fake UFO crash stuff. But this is not AI generated, I don't think. I wouldn't say that it is. And they verified it at this news station. And this also lends credence to the whole special access programs that are for UFO retrieval. We now have more witnesses. We now have actual footage of a UFO being retrieved, which was crazy. And this was hyped up all weekend. And all weekend you'd just see footage of the helicopter from like a camera on board going into this desert valley. Well, this is what it went to pick up. This is what it went to pick up. This is what it went to drop off. And so now we have more conclusive proof that the government is finding these UFOs when they can and taking them and working on them. This essentially corroborates the last 35 years of UFO whistleblower testimony. And you can go through various whistleblowers and people's stories of what's true and what isn't, and trying to discern what is true and what isn't. There have been great efforts to discredit certain people. Certain people maybe aren't credible, or some people could even be lying, right? But now we have more concrete proof that there is something actually going on, and it does lead us down that path of that they were actually, some of these whistleblowers were telling the truth, that there are crashed unidentified flying objects being retrieved and worked on. Because this is, whatever this is going, I don't even know, you'd need like, this is in the middle of the desert. How are you going to retrieve this? Well, maybe a different helicopter's picking it up. One hand doesn't know what the other is doing, or it's getting taken in by truck somewhere, or maybe truck to a train. Who knows? Who knows where this went? Because the helicopter pilot was only doing his job, but with the other ones, you've really not had, you've had stories and pictures at best being shown. This is visual proof of a UAP, a UFO, an extraterrestrial ship being carried by the government on government helicopters out in the middle of the desert. Okay? This is totally incredible. With a lot of the whistleblowers, it was, hey, your story sounds absolutely amazing. there would be slight hints of proof, like sprinkles of proof, but not much. And then sometimes there would be efforts to discredit these people. You have contradicting stories. You have people trying to discredit them. You have disinformation agents as whistleblowers potentially giving fake stories to discredit the whole thing. This beats all of that because this is actual video proof evidence, okay? And it's been vetted. It made it onto the TV on this program. And on prime time, this is in the middle of Saturday night. Totally awesome. So what this says is that what they were saying for the past 35 years is true. That these UFO ships, when and if they crash or are derelict or somehow, malfunction or stop working or for some reason are here, that they are collected by the government and worked on, which, you have people who would say that sounds crazy. Well, just look at the footage. But here, we're also going to go into the comment section because we know there's going to be some interesting stuff down here. Just resize that for us. For your viewing pleasure, we're getting into the deep and dirty comments. The helicopter returned 30 minutes later to retrieve 2 slices of bacon. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Oh my God. They're killing me here. I got 24 UFOs in my fridge. Oh no. How come nobody is discussing the potential of a giant chicken running around? These comments are completely savage. They're good. They're great. I love them. This might be the most disappointing video in history. Losing credibility, Ross, by Floki2. I guess not really. That doesn't make sense. I wouldn't say he is. That they hyped this up all week as a ship, right? They said you're going to see an egg-shaped UFO. You got your egg-shaped UFO footage right then and there. I don't know what more you want. This person says the exact same thing. It looks like a big white egg that's being transported by a helicopter. The eggs files. Yep, that was about as revealing as I expected. I can see that. Listen, most of these UFO footage is just super grainy and blurry because your camera zoom isn't meant to go that far if you're not using high quality lenses, which you're talking super expensive lenses in the first place. And it usually is cheaper to go digital zoom on all these cameras anyway. And that's even factoring in the sensors on the cameras. I'm a big time Bumble Squish says, I'm a big time believer, but this just looks like a guy dangling an egg with some string and some helicopter noise played over top. And notice how there isn't any dust dripping on the ground. It's true. Hey, that's true. What they said was true. This person, Meat Popsicle, it was filmed just as you described in someone's grandma's basement that still has the original green screen 1970s carpet on the floor. I guess so. I say it's a balloon with a surgical mask on it. Yeah, these comments are just ripping it apart. That's funny. Well, it said in the video that's a 150-foot long line, so I don't know if the helicopter would throw around dust that high. That's a good question. That's a good point. Why didn't the cable jiggle? Because it's carrying like a friggin' 50,000 pound object. Why do you think it doesn't jiggle? That's a stupid comment. My sister-in-law has a theory that this is actually footage of a helicopter laying its own eggs, then nesting on it so we get more helicopters. Now, that would be awesome. The helicopter egg conspiracy continues. The ground looks strange, almost like that fake ground they used on train sets. Someone said agreed. And the lighting shadow on the fake ground looks very suspect. Someone said it was recorded through night vision on a night recovery. I'm ex-military, and if you use night vision, everything looks like green, like a gold course putting green. The video is legit amazing, and everyone bashing it the best and clearest object yet. It's true. It's true. And they've been reported in many shapes and sizes, especially the egg. This is legit, folks. Read more. There's nothing more on that YouTube. The ground looks fake. Sounds so schizo. I'm sorry. Hey, some people think that it is. I don't think this is fake at all. That's where I'm landing on this. Just because of this is what the person said. Just because of the comment, I now 100% believe the video because the ground looks fake. Sounds like gaslighting. Describe a fake ground to me. Someone, anyone, describe to me a fake ground and tell me how your description compares to real ground. Well, if you were doing some sort of modeling, not like that modeling, okay, but if you're doing like train set modeling, miniature modeling, they have had fake ground, and a lot of it would be your composition of dirt size, right? You'd have to find more particulate matter that's super small to make it seem like it's ground, right? For scale size, fine dust, etc. You want me to get into how you can make fake ground? I can make fake ground by 3 o'clock this afternoon. You just take your coffee. No, I'm kidding. Ex-military here as well. I can confirm that you definitely see shadows at night when using night vision goggles. The ground probably isn't grass, looks more like a dry and cracked desert ground, which is 100% where the preceding video that they showed, and I didn't show it in this clip, it was a helicopter flying over the desert, okay, flying in between two desert sort of peaks, mountains, not quite, desert hills, big hills, and the helicopter's flying in between it. And it doesn't show the egg in real-time color, which was the hype video maybe had people thinking they'd see that. It's kind of hard to tell the scale. I just told you the scale, dude. But 50 seconds, once the payload hits the ground, you see the pilot lead the line hook and straps over the object to the left. They're probably some pretty wide low straps, not sure what's wrapped in, but doesn't look like netting, looks like some special blanket. Yeah, and you want to watch miniatures, go watch Power Rangers. Try to watch Ultraman staging, lol, it's like this. WTF, seriously? And this one, hey, he been Julie, I can't even, no thanks. See some more comments. A phenomenon known as grass. Ever seen night vision FFS and no wind from the rotor of the heli? This thing would spin like crazy in the air during transport. Possibly. And you can always say it's a weather balloon too. God damn it. Really? Man, that chicken must have been huge. This person got really angry. What a joke! You think these people think everyone here is stupid? This video shows nothing. It could be anything. It could easily be faked. This Nikki Dash didn't like it either. Just tell us you think we're complete idiots without telling us you think we're complete idiots. Just wow. Rajvanya Ross, you're losing a lot of respect here posting such an obviously fake video. You can do better than this. A lot of followers here were depending on your professionalism and investigative skills. Same as the story about his mothership under a house. Now I want to know about that. Did you see his video about ancient Egypt? Completely obvious fake explanations, folks. Watch how it rolls gracefully. Yeah, that's how round egg-shaped objects without corners move on flat surfaces. Well, I wouldn't even say it's a flat surface. This is a bit of a stretch, chat. This is an egg with strings duct taped to it, connected to a stick lowered onto carpet. LMAO. That's what I thought. It sure does look like that. Tell me you don't understand physics, shadows, depth of field, without telling me you don't understand physics, shadows, depth of field. See, we're getting into the skeptical side as well. It doesn't hurt to look into these. This is someone lifting an egg with a fishing pole and astroturf. I kind of want to look at it again.
As they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP.
I mean, it's not that I don't see what they're saying. I get it.
Let's freeze frame here to look at one. Craft is about 20 feet long. The egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo.
When you say stuff like that, now oh man. At first I was like, no, I remember that looking more like ground. Now I'm getting convinced that it's kind of looking like carpet. I'm kidding. This is real. This is real. I think it's real.
150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet long. The egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP.
But certainly is, at first I was like, why are they talking about grandma's carpet and being laid on astroturf? Yeah, I can see that, I guess. Hey, you know what? To each their own. Please do explain to me how this is a crash retrieval. The thing in question clearly didn't crash, as it's seemingly in pristine condition. Also explain how wide claims can be made that it has no visible means of repulsion is a valid statement. I didn't see it flying. That's another good point. Did you? Do we have evidence of this thing flying and or crashing? That's an egg, bro. A 5-year-old could make that video with an iPhone and part of your nutritious breakfast. Get some bacon and OJ in the frame next time. Oh, man. Hey. I'm leaning towards it being true just based off the whole interview and what I saw. But going into these comments, I can see why. I 100% can see why people don't necessarily believe it. I get it. When people put these comments up, they're hitting pretty good notes on why it doesn't look legit. I think it looks legit, in my opinion. But again, all of their points are easily valid. Okay, it's not. I don't think it would be too hard to fake this video, in my opinion. I think if we had more dynamic footage of it, this would be sort of better understood, right? If you had, and this was filmed at night, so you really can't get sort of better footage. If you had different angles, if you had daytime footage of the object, if you had even, say, people who were on the ground or, driving up to it, that makes, for scale size, right? That would lead some credibility as well, some credence to it being real. I say it's real. Don't get me wrong, but I can see why people have their doubts, and it's easy to believe it at the narrative being set out, and it's easy to believe the people who are skeptical about it. I think it's one of the best things we've seen if you want to go down the whole road. But the people who are skeptical about it, I mean, it's easy to barb this with enough jokes that it doesn't seem that it's legit. I think it is. Uh, but I can also see their points, and hey, they're not wrong in their summation. Whoa, they're not wrong in their summary of how one could go about faking this. We could, if you give someone about 3 hours, they could probably put together something that looks very similar to this. Unfortunately, the camera isn't necessarily the best, and they usually aren't. They really aren't when they're meant for that. So, and you don't know how many times the footage has been copied over or re-rendered. Every time you do that, you re-render footage like that, you can cause more artifacting on it. So if it's been copied and re-rendered and exported out again, it couldn't do that. Remember, there was a guy who was, if you guys don't remember, and some of you probably wouldn't, this was around 15 years ago, 10 years ago maybe. Some guy was just uploading a video to YouTube, downloading it, uploading the downloaded one again, and every time the quality would get just cut by a significant portion, and then eventually after like 10,000 times it's not even recognizable. It just like shapes on screen, not even shapes, it's like a few squares moving. It was crazy. They wouldn't let you do, by the way, YouTube as it is now would not let you do that again. 100%. You would never be able to do that. You would get you would trigger some sort of response from them if you even tried doing that. If you try, you'd have to string it out over a long period of time. You couldn't do it like how he did it, which was he did it essentially every hour. He was doing it over multiple days, and he did it like 10,000 times or something. But no, I'm just trying to explain how video artifacting also works. So I can see why this looks suspicious. I think it looks great. I think this is what was hyped, what was promised, and I think it lines up with what he shows in the rest of the interview with there being more egg-shaped UFOs, and he kind of tries to tie it to the Tic Tac, and that, in my head, is making sense as well. So I don't think this is just an egg being dropped onto a carpet, but hey, it might be. There have been, in our world of this, there have been lots of videos that are true, false, everywhere in between. I'm leaning to this being true. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on this. I hope you watched the whole video. Go watch the whole interview, because it is probably one of the best interviews and sort of news packages I've seen about this documentary about UFOs, and it had some other stuff in it that we're not going to get into, but you should check it out. The link is in the description, and let me know what your thoughts are on this. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Totally mind-blowing, and it just came out right now. So I hope you guys have a good one, and see you guys in the next video.